Hi, today we're talking about pulling on the lead, why it happens and what you can do about it. So, why it happens is different for different dogs, but there are a few principles that we can talk through. So, with a large breed dog, they might start to pull because they would naturally walk faster than you, and you walk compared to them annoyingly slowly. Some dogs, especially maybe anxious dogs, but some working dogs, they can enjoy the feeling of pulling. It's perhaps they feel a bit overwhelmed. It gives them something to do, to pull nice and hard into their harness, and they can get a bit addicted to it. Some dogs pull and lunge because they are overwhelmed by something in the environment or something that's going on for them. And they can appear almost a bit crazy on the end of the lead. And they aren't so much pulling as just hitting a boundary and perhaps not coping so well. But probably the most common reason for pulling is simply that what the dog does is they smell something or see something and they want to get there. They pull into the lead, and for the dog, what they perceive is that because they pulled, they got there sooner. So getting to the smell or getting closer to what they wanted gives them a little endorphin rush. It's a little bit like you saying good and giving them a treat for pulling. So the reality is, for a lot of dogs, there's a combination of reasons why they pull in any particular scenario. And certainly if your dog presents as being really quite overwhelmed by what is going on, then you might want to seek help rather than trying to get to grips with this yourself. So things that a lot of people will try is pulling the dog back or telling the dog off, and they don't really work. So if you pull the dog back to you, they might stay close to you for a fraction of a second, and then they'll be back at the end of the lead. And in fact, reprimanding your dog for pulling, I would argue, is giving them attention. So what can you do? I think the first thing to do if you have a dog who's really pulling on the lead is change the game altogether, reduce the overwhelm, reduce the stimulus that's leading to the pulling on the lead. So if you have a dog who is wildly addicted to chasing a ball at the park or playing with the other dogs at the park, and you have a short lead walk to get there, what you would probably need to do is stop the wildly exciting ball or social dog play for a bit and actually stop going on an A to B walk. Just go out your front door, turn left, turn right, cross over, turn left, then turn right, so that the walk isn't an overwhelming drive to get to the park to play ball. When you're reteaching walking on a loose lead, you often want to do lots of short, easily digestible walks rather than one long walk, because reteaching walking on a lead it's hard on you as the dog's owner and handler, but it's also hard on the dog. Sorry, live video, the tortoise is just going back in her vivarium. Let me close her door. So what you will also need to do is teach the dog ways of staying in connection with you while you are walking. So if your dog is ahead of you, the reality is they can't see you, they can't hear you, they lose connection with you, although if they're pulling into the lead, it's a bit like a child on those reins you give toddlers. They feel your connection, but you can't help them at all with anything. And in fact, if there's any hazards in the environment, they're getting to them first. So to help your dog to cope, if they're alongside you and you're having a little conversation with them as you go along, they'll stay with you and you are becoming more interesting than the environment, the smells, the other dogs, etc. So typical skills you would learn in group classes or in one-to-ones would be teaching the dog to do things with you on your left-hand side. So looking up at you, touching your hand, doing sits, downs, spins, anything where you and the dog can be doing things as you walk along. They're earning treats and they're getting lots of praise and attention for being on your left-hand side. What you don't want to do is wait for the dog to be out in front of you, pulling hard on the lead, and then you get your bit of chicken out and say, Fluffy, look. Because what Fluffy's getting then is attention and treats for being at the end of the lead, even if they have to come back and get the treat from you. So lots of calm attention and treats for being on your left-hand side is perfect. If the dog really is addicted to pulling like a steam train, what you might want to do is start that inside the house. You can do it sitting down on a chair, put the mat on the floor beside you, and just have them do lots of things on the mat on your left-hand side. So they're learning that left-hand side of you is where the treats happen. And over time, what we're really looking for is that rather than just having to keep this conversation, look, spin, sit, hand touch on your left-hand side, having to keep that going the whole time, what the dog will gradually learn is what the view of you is, the feel of everything on your left-hand side, your footfall, and that position gradually becomes classically conditioned with the dog to be the right place for them to be. That does take time. So what we've got is reduce the overwhelm. So go back to 3 15-minute walks a day rather than 1 45-minute walk. I would take the dog's entire daily food allowance out with me. So if you have no other issues you're working on, only give them their food on the walk. And if they're having dried food, you can just use their normal kibble, provided the level of overwhelm is low enough. If the dog's utterly overwhelmed, you might have to resort to, cheese or sprats to keep them focused with you. And you're just going to go for these 3 short 15-minute wiggly walks, doing loads of things on your left-hand side, and rebuild their confidence in moving with you that way. Now, often you will benefit from doing group classes or one-to-ones for things like pulling on the lead. So typically, people will say, my dog walks wonderfully until there's another dog, etc. So the thing with those sorts of issues is it's quite hard to address them on your own. So if you've got any issues with pulling on the lead, I'm happy to answer in the comments, but also feel free to get in touch and see if there's a class that we can slot you into. I hope to speak to you all soon, and any questions or comments, please leave them below and I'll get back to you. Bye.